Hey everyone, well today I thought it might be enjoyable to go to the most touristy place in Guam, Two Lovers Point, which is actually a place I rather enjoy. So I'm going to hop on the mighty steed here and go for a ride.
I can't let you go, baby. I just want to tell you that. No.
Did I have to walk my bike up this giant hill? Maybe. Not saying I did.
Take care, cause that man is trouble, if best.
I would like to know your honest opinion. Jolly Bee, is it good or is it not?
Now that you got me started, I just can't stop. No. Cause I love you, baby.
The road that you turn down to find this place really isn't too difficult to find. It's actually right off the main drag, Marine Drive. If you're going north towards Dededo, it's right about where Tumon turns into Dededo. You just take a right turn. And then there's this long, sorry to make you dizzy, long stretch of road here. And this is going to lead you basically right to the entrance of Two Lovers Point. A lot of people come out here in the evening as the sun's setting because it's a pretty quiet street. Good to ride bikes, take a walk. There's actually some trails around here too that kind of lead off this main road. You might not want to come out here in the middle of the day. I just checked the weather and it's approximately a bajillion degrees, which feels about right. I just spotted a quality piece of Guam wildlife here. Well, actually, he might not be among the living. So we found ourselves a nice shady spot here under this tree, and the gate is right around the corner. You know, you might be like me and not really like touristy spots, but there's some redeeming qualities and reasons that you still want to check out Two Lovers if you come here visiting or maybe even live here. And that is because one of the most popular CHamoru legends is based in this location, and it's the legend of the two lovers. Now, it's really important to know this story because when you get to the gate, they actually quiz you on the legend, and if you don't know it, they kick you out and they take your money. Okay, well, maybe that's not entirely true, but you should familiarize yourself with the legend just for education's sake and to know a little bit more about the culture of the island. If you're interested in folklore and legends of Guam, there's this really good book that I purchased, I've learned a lot from, and even made some videos based on, and I'll put a link down in the description below. I believe it was written by somebody who lives here and has lived here for a long time. So, what is the legend of the two lovers? There's a couple versions of this story. I'm going to give you the popular version, and if you want maybe what is the original version, I'd encourage you to check out this link up here, a channel called Puntan Speaks, and he does a lot of interesting stuff about Micronesia and the history behind it, and the Marianas, and Guam specifically, and all kinds of interesting stuff. Much more academic than I am, but I'll give you the popular version. Okay, so it begins like this. There was this beautiful CHamoru girl or young woman. Oh. She was not only beautiful, but she came from the upper class of CHamoru society, and her family was well positioned. They had a lot of land, and any young man who would have married this young girl would have been doing pretty well for himself. Guam's not a super big place, and so her fame spread throughout all of the island about her beauty, about her status, and just about every CHamoru boy would have liked to marry this girl. This was around the time of the Spanish occupation. And so unfortunately, the rules of their society dictated that a girl from the upper class couldn't marry someone from the lower class. So although everyone wanted to marry her, not every man actually had a chance. You know who did have a chance, though, is a Spanish captain. See, it wasn't just the CHamoru men who had taken notice of this girl, but this Spanish guy had as well, and he thought, well, it'd be pretty advantageous for me to marry this girl because of all of her connections. So he went to her parents, and he said, hey, I have intentions on your daughter, can I marry her? Her parents were thinking, well, this would be good for our family, and so they agreed, yes, you can marry our daughter, and they set a wedding date. But little did they know that their daughter was actually in love with somebody else. In fact, she was in love with a CHamoru boy who was from the lower class in their society, and so their love was forbidden. When the wedding was arranged, she went and told her love the terrible news. She was gonna have to marry this Spanish dude and live in this loveless relationship the rest of her life. Tragic, yes. The day of the wedding was quickly approaching, and these two lovers spent all of the remaining time that they had together. And when together, they concluded that they couldn't destine themselves to this fate. So the day of the wedding came. Everyone had gathered, everyone was excited, everyone was in approval, except these two young people, and she left the Spaniard at the altar. Everyone at the wedding was probably shocked. The Spaniard was shocked, but rather than having compassion on the girl, instead he gathered up this search party because he felt like he was slighted and went to find these young lovers. He couldn't believe that he, a Spaniard, would be stood up by a local girl. His pride was a little bit damaged and he was going to get revenge. So with his best trackers and his band of Spaniards, he went looking for these young people, and eventually, after a few days, they were found. Were they going to surrender? And the girl be forced to marry this guy who she didn't love, and her lover be forced to live alone forever? That doesn't sound like a happy life. And so they ran and ran as far as they could to escape, and eventually they came to a steep cliff. At that point, they were out of options, the raging sea behind them and the angry Spaniards in front of them. What were they going to do? They decided that a life without love wasn't a life worth living. They looked over their shoulder at the sea, and then they looked at each other. And some say that they both let down their hair and braided it together, almost in a ceremonial marriage or symbol of unity. And looking into one another's eyes, knowing exactly what the other was going to do, they leapt over the cliff into the sea, never to be seen again. So behind me there's this lookout platform, and I think if you pay $3, if you're non-local, $3, you can get up there and get a pretty spectacular view. I would say that it's worth it. Look at that beautiful view. To be honest, this isn't the best time of day to come. You really should try to come at sunset because, well, that's 1,000,000 degrees. That's one reason. Another reason is because the sun sets right about there, and it looks fantastic. And my wife and I actually tried to come and film this video last night, but I ran out of time because I'm slow. So I'm going to clip some of that footage in so you can see some sunset views. Well, altogether, I would definitely say that it's worth a trip here, at least one. and you're not going to beat the views. There's actually a wedding chapel over here. There's a restaurant where you can eat dinner. That would be a great spot to spend one sunset of your trip. And just overall, pretty incredible spot. So if you've never been here before, definitely put it on your to-do list. It's easy to get to, quick, beautiful. So this is a story I've never heard before. Apparently in 2002, a typhoon came through and it tore down the statue, and it was sold as scrap. And 11 years later, this guy named David Barnhart was here with this woman that he was dating called Nancy, and he said that a lot of the locals thought that the statue still existed and that it was sitting somewhere in a scrapyard, and he said that if it did exist, he would buy it and repair it and put it up as a symbol between the love of him and Nancy. So a little bit later, Nancy and David did end up getting married, and she searched for the statue for 2 years until she found it in a scrapyard, and it was sitting on top of a shipping container. It was all rusted over. And so they ended up buying it, and then this welder, Armando Nazareta, he ended up welding it back into a good-looking statue, and then it was erected again in 2015. That's a pretty cool story, as a symbol of the eternal love between David Barnhart and Nancy and all lovers. But good job, David and Nancy.